there, welcome to this Mark's Reviews and Tutorials video. Today we're going to be doing an oil change on a BMW 30D. This is actually on an X4, but these are going to be very similar on whatever sort of car you're on. So to start with, there's some covers and things that are in the way that we're going to need to get out of the way. So the first thing we're going to do is take off the engine cover here, and also underneath there's a little cover underneath where the oil drains out. So we'll start off with those two. Oil changes, you know, if you've got your own car and you want to do some work on it, oil change is a really good place to start, actually. You're really just draining the oil out and putting it back in and replacing your filter. And as long as you take your time, it's not that hard. When I do an oil change, I actually run the car up on ramps, particularly with your 3 or 5 series, because you just got no room to get underneath there, but it makes it so much easier. But if you don't have ramps, then you can jack your car up in the normal spot, and then just make sure you put a jack stand, because you do have to get under it. So you not only have to have a jack, you also have to have a jack stand. And modern BMWs don't come with a jack, so this is the sort of gear you're going to have yourself as well. I'm going to put links in the description to different tools, ramps, jacks, jack stands and stuff like that I recommend. I've actually made a video about the best jack for your BMW. Have a look. I'll put a link up here for that one. Particularly if you've got a 3 or a 5 series, because they're low and you can't get normal jacks under them. Not so much if you've got an X, then there's plenty of room. JM of JM All 4, got his own YouTube channel. He's going to show you how to take the engine cover off. There are 4 rubber grommets, and we are just lifting those up, 1, 2, 3, 4 at a time. Tip that up and then show us the underneath of it. See, it's got the felt on it to make the car quieter, and you can just see the pins here where it clips in place and the matching spots down here. Then there's another noise stopping aid here as well. That bit there that sits on top, there's your fuel rails and so forth. That's also about keeping the noise out. This here is where we put the oil in, and the oil filter. So the oil filter is this is the middle of the engine here, and we're right down there. This thing with a little knob on the top, that is the oil filter on your 30D. And the 20D, it's in a very similar location as well. Okay, so now we've got the engine cover off. You also see here is the air cleaner.
So we are near the back of the front wheels, and we found this cover here. And so what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to undo these 2 bolts, standard 8mm bolts. And we're going to do so now.
Okay, screw him off. And that cover will just lift out, and up in there you'll see the sump bolt right there, and that's where we drain all the engine oil out. And being BMW, it'll be 17mm, because pretty much all BMW sump plugs are 17mm. Okay, so then just get this on, and it's really important that you hold it square. That's it. Then you just crack it with the spanner, then take the spanner off and do the rest of it by hand. What you then make sure that your oil pan is directly underneath, central. And then when you're undoing it by hand, it's going to spill hot oil out because you've run the car to warm it up. So try and hold it on the side, JM. Don't have your hand directly under it like that. And don't drop the nut, because it's just a pain to have to fish it out of the oil later. So get it till it's right near the end. Then when you feel it, drop it out of the way, but have a plan so the oil runs straight in the pot. Look at that. Okay, so once that starts it's running. You can then go up top side, and we'll take the oil filter off, because we need to get that off while this is open down the bottom here to catch it. Now again, make sure you've got a big enough oil pan. These guys hold 7 litres, I think it is. We'll look up the exact amount and tell you when we add the oil. Okay, so the oil filter cap here has a hex head, a socket thing on the top. So you just get your socket with an extension, and you're going to use the ratchet as well, but slip it onto there and then do it in the undo direction, and that'll undo it. There's also proper little caps that slip down over the top and hold on to that. I'll put a link in the description to those as well. But if you've just got the right size socket, or even, you know, a spanner like this, might link to one of those as well, an adjustable wrench, you can get in there and just loosen it off with that as well. They've put that up there, but it's plastic, so be careful you don't munch it. Make sure you get the spanner on fully, and then you can undo it. Or even a shifter does it as well. Okay, so we put a rag down under here, so as we lift it out, any drips that fall down aren't going to just end up all over your engine, but they'll be caught by the rag. So we lift that out, get a paper towel under it, And there she is. There's the old one, nice and black. There's the new one, nice and clean. So we just pull that out of there. It just as a press fit, like that. I tend to put that in the box of the new filter. I'm using a BMW one, but just don't buy a copy Chinese. Have a look. I put a link to a film up here about I bought a copy Chinese and put one in and it came to pieces. So make sure it's a brand name oil filter that you put in your BMW. Well and truly worthwhile. So that just clips out, and then the new one, this little O-ring bit here, clips in and it sits in like that. That's seated in, and then we screw the new oil filter into place. Okay, so looking down inside the housing where the oil filter goes, you can see that little circle off to the side. You see that lines up with this here, and so you need to get that down into that little matching spot, and then screw it down and tighten it up from there. But before we do that, we're going to replace the O-ring up here on the casing, because the oil filter came with a new O-ring, so we're going to replace that. We'll also give this a wipe and make sure it's all ready to go back in. So there's an O-ring here that needs to be replaced. Just a little screwdriver is perfect. That you just get in and under there and just go around like that, hook it off, and you'll see there's a slot there, and that's where you need to make sure your new O-ring goes. So just hook that off, take it off, new O-ring on, and only the one thing to check with the O-ring is that one's quite a bit smaller. It's going to be a bit of a challenge to get on. So I've taken the oil filter out. We're going to just stretch the new one over the top like that, and it needs to end up in that last slot before the top there, just like that. And then as you're running it in, make sure it's not all twisted up, make sure it's not rough, and also just get a little bit of oil on it, because it needs to slip into place as it goes down. So put that back in again, that just slips in. And now, as I said, as we put this into here, we need to line it up with that little hole. It'll go into place, and then we do it up. Okay, so you don't stress too much about getting that thing into the hole, because it actually won't go not in the hole. The oil filter won't go in, but get it to the right spot where it is. It'll line it up again, and then it drops in that extra little bit like that, and you know you're in the right spot. Then you can do it up.